In the Canadian province of British Columbia, over a dozen feet inside shoes have washed up on local beaches. What does that mean? It means shoes washed up on the beach with feet still inside them, cut off at the ankles. According to a report from CBC News, investigators are still trying to piece together the gruesome mystery. It all started in 2007 when a right foot washed up on a beach near Vancouver Island. Over the next 11 years, a steady progression of feet continued to wash up. Oddly, the feet were always by themselves, not as a pair, and always inside a sneaker. The best theory that investigators have come up with is that the feet got separated from the rest of the corpse and then floated all the way up to Canadian shores because the shoes made them buoyant. But to make this even more mysterious, all the shoes are from different mysteries. Forensic experts have used DNA to track several of the feet to missing persons cases, while others remain unsolved. Some of the feet could belong to murder victims, some could belong to seamen who fell overboard, and some may even be from graveyards built too close to the ocean. Imagine going out shopping with some friends at your favorite mall. You're finding some cool stuff, and the day is going great. This mall also just so happens to have a 33-ton glass shark tank. You and your friends have just taken a shopping break to admire the sharks. The sharks are swimming around minding their own business when suddenly the glass cracks. You hear the crack as it gets bigger and bigger until the tank bursts. Pieces of glass fly into your face, you get knocked down by a deluge of water, and suddenly you see sharks spilling out and floating next to you. Water is everywhere and there are sharks flopping around on the ground. That's exactly what happened to 15 people at the Shanghai Orient Shopping Center in China. 15 bewildered people were injured when the glass suddenly gave way and the shark tank emptied in seconds. 8 of the victims were customers, with the rest being shop employees or security staff. Most of the injuries were from cuts, since the glass literally shattered like a bomb had just gone off. But now you're probably wondering, what about the sharks? No, the sharks didn't bite anybody as they were sent sliding across the floor of the mall. Instead, they just kind of died because they didn't have any more water to breathe. The reason the glass failed is still under investigation, with experts right now saying it could have been a sudden drop in temperature that caused the glass to unexpectedly break. Most of us know seals as cute creatures at the beach or zoo that balance balls on the tips of their nose or eat fish out of their keeper's hands. But we don't usually get to see aquatic animals outside of their natural habitat, and we especially don't often see them in ours. In New Zealand, a very unusual criminal was caught breaking into the house of Claire Christian. But instead of running out of the door in fear like most of us would have, she pulled out a camera and started filming. Much to her delight, she was the victim of a sneaky baby seal's brazen home invasion. The sweet little guy somehow managed to break into her house, lounge around her living room, sit by the fire, and just sit back, making itself at home. When she arrived to find the intruder loitering in her house, the adorable critter tried to hide behind the furniture, almost as if it knew it was up to no good. Nobody knows exactly how the seal broke into her house or where it came from, but after it was done, it wandered out the front door and went back about its business. This would have been the perfect time to have hidden cameras in your house. But sadly, Claire wasn't so prepared with her tech. Apparently, having a baby seal break into your house is just another day in New Zealand. Researchers in the United Kingdom have uncovered a bizarre collection of over 200 human skeletons hidden underneath the sand of an otherwise pristine beach. The human skeletons appear to be ancient, belonging to women, children, and men. According to the researchers that made this grisly beach discovery, the site had likely been occupied by a Christian church back in the 6th century. The graves had been dug too close to the beach in Pembrokeshire, and after about 1400 years of weather, the graves ended up under the sand instead of under the soil, which is about 20 feet up the beach. According to Jenna Smith from the Darfed Archaeological Trust, the corpses were in incredibly good condition because they had been stuck under the sand for so long. Archaeologists didn't find any artifacts or personal belongings, as whatever these people were buried with has long since decayed. There's also no evidence left of the church that once stood at the edge of the water. All that remains of the mysterious people that once called this stretch of coastline home are, well, the skeletal remains of the people themselves. In New Zealand, an octopus by the name of Inky managed to escape its glass enclosure and earn itself a bit of freedom. It all happened in the middle of the night when the aquarium was deserted and the staff were long gone. Inky's cage lid had been left slightly ajar, just enough that he was able to slither from his glass enclosure, use his suckers to move along the outside of his tank, and then to the floor. From there, the octopus discovered a pipe leading directly to the ocean. He used that 150-foot-long drain pipe to escape back into the wild. For those who know anything about octopi, this shouldn't come as a huge surprise. According to Rob Yarrell, the manager of the National Aquarium where the daring breakout took place, octopi are quite famous for being escape artists. I mean, have you seen the movie Finding Dory? Even secured in a glass tank, octopi have an uncanny way of getting out and getting into trouble. They are extremely intelligent. Think about if you were a creature stuck in a glass tank. Wouldn't you try to get out too? This time, the octopus was lucky that he made it to the ocean and not just into a sewer. In a far less adorable home invasion, an Asiatic lion strolled into a farmer's house in the small Indian village of Gujarat. Asiatic lions are native only in regions of India. This particular homeowner was shocked when he walked in the door and saw a fully grown lion relaxing on his couch. According to the local reports, the lion had just finished eating one of the farmer's buffalo calves before sneaking in through a back door and then taking a bit of a nap. After all, it was late on a Sunday, the perfect time to relax. While it's sad for the calf, it's good for the farmer that the lion had a full stomach. Who knows what would have happened if the big cat's stomach was rumbling? Not knowing what to do and terrified, the farmer ran away to get the forest officials. He had 14 other family members in the house, so he had to act quickly in order to avoid any trouble. When the officials arrived, the lion was still lounging without a care in the world. They had to shoo the big cat out of the house and back into the jungle. It took multiple men and over 2 hours to get the lion out. That's one stubborn cat. In Australia, a devastating storm brought in more than just strong winds and heavy rain. It also swept onto the beach an incredibly deadly snake that just about killed a local resident out for a morning walk. She couldn't believe her bad luck when she nearly tripped over a yellow-bellied sea snake, one of the most ferocious sea snakes in the world. This creature normally inhabits deep waters in the Indian Ocean, but was likely stirred up because of the storm. It got flung onto the beach, where it desperately tried to wriggle back into the water and failed. The reason the yellow-bellied sea snake is so dangerous is that it has highly toxic venom. The snake preys primarily on fish, so its venom must be strong enough to paralyze the fish immediately upon injection. When the snake bites a human, it has the exact same effect. The person will often become paralyzed, and then soon after, well, they simply stop being alive. The local who found this particular venomous monster was wise enough not to touch it. Instead, she called Jacqueline Lloyd, a local reptile remover, then stood guard to make sure nobody accidentally came into contact with the deadly serpent. It was ultimately removed and then disposed of. At the Arrowhead Town Center in Glendale, Arizona, shoppers witnessed something out of a horror movie. A large glass pane suspended from the mall ceiling shattered without warning, then fell to the ground in a hail of glass shards and nearly killed a guy. One unfortunate shopper happened to be standing directly underneath the pane when it shattered, with firefighters describing the injuries he sustained as severe lacerations. Even though nobody caught the glass shattering on video, footage surfaced soon after of the aftermath. In the footage, you can clearly see a group of shocked shoppers standing around a man covered in blood, hunched over on the ground. The decorative glass pane was roughly the size of a refrigerator, and nobody knows why it broke. According to the senior property manager of the mall, the investigation is still ongoing. Even if they never find out the cause, it's probably not a great idea to have giant slabs of glass suspended from the ceiling purely for decorative purposes. Hey, someone thought it looked cool. While bees are crucial to the natural world, pollinating flowers and helping the ecosystem, they aren't an uncommon fear. Many people see bees and immediately get nervous, thinking that they might get stung. That's with one bee. Imagine the fear and sheer terror an entire swarm could bring. In Texas, an invasion of killer bees almost killed a person's dog and left the owner suffering immense pain from over 80 stings. It happened on a Monday when Austin resident Emily Frank was out on a walk with her dog Dexter. They were strolling near the Onion Creek Greenbelt when out of nowhere a giant swarm of Africanized honeybees came out of the bushes angry with the intent to kill. According to Emily, they mostly went after her dog. At one point, her dog was laying on the ground completely blanketed with bees, a horrific sight for any pet owner. For those who don't know, Africanized honeybees are wildly aggressive and have been known to chase people or other animals down in huge swarms. They can cover a human in just seconds, stinging them to death. They began invading Texas in the 1990s and react violently to any loud noise or vibration that disturbs their hive. Sometimes, even just mowing the lawn can cause a swarm of bees to try and murder you. Just one more thing to worry about in Texas. Poor Dexter ended up being sent to the animal hospital where it took him 3 days to recover. All the bee stings had given him acute liver failure. To be honest, he's lucky he even survived the incident. Plus, Emily herself had to spend some time in the emergency room with a deadly fever and her whole face became swollen from countless bee stings. On a beach in Connecticut, Evan Honeyman, yes, his real name is Honeyman, was more than a little surprised when he discovered an incredible artifact over 1,000 years old. It was a complete fluke that he found the object. A simple piece of chiseled stone once used by the ancient indigenous people of North America. Evan had been visiting his parents' beach house in Westbrook when he decided to take a leisurely stroll along the water. And that was when he spotted the stone sticking out of the sand, likely composed of basalt or rhyolite. The object itself was likely used as the tip of a spear or the tip of an arrow. Sometime between 1,000 and 3,000 years ago, it was a simple hunting implement, a sharp stone with many purposes. And believe it or not, there are hundreds or even thousands of them hidden all across the beaches of Connecticut. The thing is that thousands of years ago, the shoreline was much farther out. Indigenous peoples lived along the shore in places that are currently underwater. They left lots of their artifacts behind, and every now and then, one of them washes up onto the beach. He must have felt pretty lucky to have been the one to find such a cool and rare artifact. A man walking across the Pian mountain bridge in China was left stranded and scared after some of the panels shattered right beneath his feet. This is obviously the last thing anyone wants when walking across a glass bridge. According to USA Today, the glass shattered because of a sudden gust of wind that rattled the panels and made them break. It left tourists clinging to the rails, with one guy right in the middle of the broken panes, trapped on a thin beam and holding on for dear life. To make matters even more terrifying for this poor guy, the bridge is around 300 feet above ground, and at the time, winds were gusting at 93 miles per hour. This guy had to hold on for over an hour before a rescue team was able to get him. Everybody managed to get off the bridge alive, but it was extremely close. One wrong move and he could have tumbled all the way to the bottom, splattering himself on the rocks below. Having your home invaded by a bear isn't all that uncommon in Vail, Colorado, but for Katie Hawley, a bear break-in left her with a story unlike any other. Katie had left her kitchen window unlocked and a clever beast managed to slide it open and crawl into her house. But instead of going on a destructive rampage, the bear sat down and simply played the piano. This bear happened to be a secret pianist, and it had apparently broken into Katie's house to practice some new songs. Who knew that when the furry beasts weren't stealing picnic baskets or eating honey, they were making music? It didn't play very well since it mostly just banged on the keys with its huge paws, but it seemed to be having a pretty fun time. And hey, who are we to say he wasn't playing well? It's not like we're skilled pianists. Or bear pianists. The amazing incident was caught on one of Katie's home surveillance cameras. When she first arrived home to find her house in a bit of a mess, she thought she'd been burglarized. But after she checked the surveillance video footage, she saw that the bear had gone into her freezer, stolen a bit of food, hammered out a few musical tunes on a piano, and then got out of there before the authorities arrived. As of right now, the bear has yet to perform any encores, but you can bet we'd buy tickets. Officers with the Flagler County Sheriff's Office responded to a very strange emergency phone call back in July. An enormous hamster wheel had turned up on the beach. Oddly enough, the hamster wheel contained a man trapped inside and desperately waiting to be saved. If you're thinking, what the heck, you're not alone. We are too. His name is Reza Bellucci, and this wasn't the first time he was discovered on the beach stuck inside a giant hamster wheel. You see, he was trying to get all the way from Florida to New York by using his bizarre floating watercraft. He had designed what looks like a hamster wheel, a floating contraption that he can navigate by running as hard as he can, causing the wheel to spin. As the wheel spins, he's propelled forward across the surface of the water. Back in 2014, Reza had to be rescued by the Coast Guard after he was discovered fatigued and disoriented while trying to literally run from Florida to Bermuda. Then in 2016, the Coast Guard had to rescue him again during his second attempt. This was the third time he had to be rescued from his giant hamster wheel, a device that he calls the hydropod bubble. What would your reaction be if you were the one that discovered this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. In Brazil, a glass-bottom pool shattered in the middle of the night, dropping gallons of water into the parking garage directly below. Amazingly, nobody was in the pool when it happened. In fact, there doesn't appear to be any kind of reason why the glass even shattered. It was a clean break, with the rectangular bottom falling completely out. All the water came spilling down at once, flooding the parking garage. The water splashed down on the hood of a car with such force that it pushed the car several feet backward. It was extremely fortunate that nobody was in the pool at the time. They probably would have died. The building needed to be evacuated after the incident for safety reasons, while a construction company came in to look at its structural integrity. The residents did eventually return, though there's no word yet if the pool has been rebuilt. Even if they do rebuild the pool, who in their right mind would go swimming in it now? An elderly woman living in Indiana had her apartment burglarized by a trio of misbehaving deer. The wild animals busted in through her bedroom window, knocking the woman over and leaving her cowering behind her living room couch as the deer rampaged through the apartment, checking out all the rooms, especially the bathroom. The shocked senior citizen, terrified and not knowing what to do, had to crawl to her telephone and phone the police. Luckily, they arrived quickly enough to shield the woman from any harm while herding the deer out of the apartment. According to Sergeant Kevin Gerber, the elderly woman had remained very calm during the entire ordeal, which may be why she walked away without any injuries. As for why the deer invaded her apartment, well, it was probably an accident. Probably. Deer don't usually break into people's homes on purpose or make house calls. It took a bit of work, but the cops did manage to get the deer back outside. At which point they ran off and were never seen again, probably because they were just as scared of the woman as she was of them. On a beach in South Carolina, relics from the past washed up on shore following a violent hurricane. A guy named Aaron, along with his girlfriend Alba, went to the beach immediately after the hurricane, hoping they would find some cool seashells or other interesting things. They actually wanted to get a metal detector and see if they could find any pieces of history that got tossed ashore. But they ended up not needing any fancy equipment, as they stumbled across an old cannonball from the Civil War era. The hurricane had uncovered the ball, and it was just sitting there right on top of the sand. There's no way to tell what ship the cannonball had belonged to, if it was actually used in battle or if it was a ship that sank. Still, historians claim it's an important part of the local history. They also say that there are probably plenty more cannonballs on the bottom of the ocean, happily waiting for the next hurricane to bring them to shore. In Portland, Oregon, police say a man used a rock to smash through the storefront of a McDonald's restaurant. Apparently, the glass McDonald's uses to keep its stores safe is about as safe as the glass that Gary Hoy threw himself through. It was almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and employees were so shocked when the glass shattered and a man stepped through the threshold and into the store that they hid in the freezer. Luckily, employees already called the police because the man had been pounding on the door trying to get in. But once the police arrived, the man barricaded himself in the store and wouldn't come out. Police had no choice but to monitor the situation from a distance because he was irate and unpredictable. The suspect ended up barricading himself in the back room. This was at the same time that the employees were shivering in the freezer, both from fear and from the cold. Eventually, one of the cops had to use a sledgehammer to break through a back window and sneak in behind the perp. The officer then used pepper spray to disorient him before managing to get his hands handcuffed behind his back. As for why the lunatic broke into the McDonald's in the first place, nobody really knows. He may have just been crazy, or just really craving McNuggets. A family in Colorado was visited by an unwanted house guest, with this insane home invasion ending in tragic bloodshed. According to Kayla Slaughter, who has an ironic last name considering the situation, she and her roommate returned home at around 10:30 p.m. to find a mountain lion standing in their living room. The lion looked directly at Kayla's roommate and licked its lips. Terrified, the roommate turned and ran, but Kayla stayed behind to take a few pictures of the enormous cat, looking like an oversized kitty lounging on the couch. Yes, instead of finding safety from the wild animal, Kayla took photos. It almost looked like it was annoyed because the roommates had interrupted its TV time, or maybe because they didn't ask permission before snapping pics. But then again, it didn't ask when it broke into their house. Kayla did eventually run away as she and her roommate phoned the police. Shortly after, wildlife officers came and the animal was removed from the apartment. That was when Kayla came across the corpse of Klondike, her cat. Not only had the mountain lion ruined their furniture, it also ate their poor cat. As for where it went after the murder, the officers shooed the fearless predator out the front door. It wandered down the street and back into the wild, where it belongs. On a beach in England, a couple of dog walkers discovered the remains of a fighter plane that had been lost for 76 years. The plane goes back to the days of World War II, a Royal Air Force fighter that went down in 1944. It was in extremely rough shape when it was found by Debbie Hartley and her partner Graham Holden, but it was still intact enough for the Air Force in Britain to trace it back to its original squadron. This plane flew with the 254th Squadron, participating in night missions aimed at torpedoing enemy ships in the North Sea. It was part of the coastal defense of Britain to keep the Germans away from the island. Unfortunately for this plane, known as a Bristol Beaufighter, its engines blew just after it took off from base. It had to make an emergency landing on Cleethorpes Beach, where it was then abandoned and forgotten about for over 7 decades. There's not much left of it now. After all those years buried under the sand, almost all of the metal has been eaten away. Only the plane's bones are left, jutting out of the sand like the skeleton of some prehistoric monster. A silverback gorilla managed to break its glass enclosure and escape from its habitat at a major zoo in London. Visitors had to be locked inside of the gift shop for over an hour while armed police officers stormed the zoo in search of the gorilla, named Kumbuka. He was quickly tracked down, tranquilized, and then returned to his home. The enormous primate didn't cause any harm while on the loose. He simply took a little bit of a stroll. Still, it was quite the ordeal for staff at the zoo. Gorillas are incredibly powerful, and all animals are unpredictable. Ones that are kept in cages can be even more unpredictable once they get out and are on the loose in environments they don't understand. What's more, according to a report from The Guardian, this wasn't even the first time that the gorilla had tried to escape. He had broken through the glass enclosure at least twice before this incident. He was even described by zoo workers as a bit on the destructive side. Even more interesting is that nobody knows how exactly Kumbuka even broke through the glass. They don't know if he used tools, if he threw something at it, or if he simply used raw gorilla strength. They only know he was definitely responsible because they found his footprints on the broken glass. Next time, Kumbuka is covering his tracks. Elephants aren't usually thought of as dangerous creatures. In fact, most of us see them as friendly giants. But reality isn't always what we want it to be. Elephants are actually very dangerous, and many people have lost their lives to the massive beasts. For example, in the small village of Hua Hin, Thailand, an elephant made a surprise appearance by bulldozing its way through the wall of someone's house and sticking its enormous head into their kitchen. The poor woman was lying in bed when she heard the crash. She jumped out of bed, ran into her kitchen, and saw the elephant with its head through her wall, rummaging through her kitchen drawers with its trunk. She assumed the beast was looking for a late-night snack, but hey, who knows? Luckily, elephants aren't typically aggressive unless provoked. This curious guy was probably just hungry. The woman took a few photographs. Without them, it's doubtful anyone would have ever believed this happened. Then she shooed the elephant away and went back to sleep. She's now waiting for the Department of National Parks, Wildlife and Plant Conservation to come through with the money to help compensate for the damages the elephant did to her house. Because, let's be honest, the elephant probably isn't going to pony up any cash for its rude intrusion. They aren't known for being wealthy animals. It's not that unique to find a whale washed up on a beach. It actually happens all the time. But to be the one that comes across one of the biggest whale carcasses of all time, well, that's a different feeling. A giant sperm whale was recently found stranded and dead on Swartway Beach in Cape Town, South Africa. The whale was an absolute behemoth, estimated to weigh about 30 tons. Nobody knows how it died, though biologists did find a significant amount of fishing rope in its stomach when they did the autopsy. They also found a large collection of squid beaks, suggesting that the whale had been eating a healthy diet of squid before it wound up dead. Marine biologists are also unsure why the whale washed up on this particular beach, as they are almost never found in waters off the coast of South Africa. Sperm whales typically dive around 3,000 feet deep as they hunt for food, eating roughly 1 ton of fish and squid each day. They also travel in pods of up to 20 individuals. Maybe this poor whale got lost, turned around, and in its disoriented state, stranded itself on the beach and passed away. What would you do if you found a 30-ton sperm whale on the beach? Let us know in the comments below. Speaking of monkeys breaking glass, an extremely intelligent Colombian white-faced capuchin monkey was recently caught on video doing just that. This little monkey was witnessed sharpening a rock and then using it as a tool to smash through the glass wall of its cage. This video is indisputable evidence of evolution in motion. This tiny monkey figured out all by itself how to take a rock, sharpen it so that it can do more damage, and then use it to break out of its cage. Either the monkey had way too much time on its hands and figured out this little trick by accident, or humans need to watch out. We're actually pretty sure this is the first step to a global monkey takeover. Here comes Planet of the Apes. Tian Chuliao, a staff member of the Zhongzhou Zoo, told local media, "This monkey is unlike other monkeys. This one knows how to use tools to break walnuts. When we feed walnuts to other monkeys, they only know to bite it. But it had never hit the glass before though. This is the first time. It's toughened glass, so it would have never have got out. After it happened, we picked up all the rocks and took away all its weapons." After employees at the zoo were alerted to what happened, they put the monkey on a timeout while they fixed the glass. They also took away all the rocks in its enclosure, as well as anything else the monkey could fashion into a weapon. And in a bizarre show of force, the zoo also promised to step up patrols so that none of its clever monkeys can escape in the future. You can hardly fault them for trying though. A group of tourists got the real Australian experience when a misbehaving kangaroo broke into their vacation home. Amazingly, the kangaroo completely ignored the people inside, went straight for the kitchen and helped itself to a jar of Vegemite and a bag of chips. Not the best snack choice combination in our opinion, but hey, each their own. This hilarious home invasion happened near the coast of New South Wales, at the tourists' rental cabin on Muramarang Beach. Even as they tried chasing the large marsupial out of the house, it just kept hopping around and looking for more food. When it finished snacking in the kitchen, it casually made its way to the bedroom, hoping to find more tasty goodness. Believe it or not, this isn't the only incident of its kind. Eastern grey kangaroos are common in this part of Australia. Over 100 of the feisty critters have been spotted loitering all over the beachfront where the rental cabins are located. This is because they've learned that the curious tourists will usually hand out food. When there's not enough food being handed out on the beach, some of the braver kangaroos resort to home invasions and burglary. But you can't help but love them. An invading swarm of bees recently massacred nearly 100 penguins in South Africa. The swarm of insects descended on a beach just outside of Cape Town. The poor penguins were actually part of the Simonstown colony. The bees are also part of the local ecosystem, but they live farther from the coast in the national park. It's highly unusual for that many bees to go all the way down to the seashore, and even rarer for them to attack penguins. I mean, who does that? Penguins are so innocent looking and cute. Nobody can say why the bees invaded the penguins' territory. 63 of the flightless birds were found dead on the beach, killed by excessive stinging. Scientists also found fallen bees all over the beach, hundreds of the things. According to David Roberts, a clinical veterinarian with the South African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds, autopsies revealed that the penguins had only been stung on the eyeballs. Ugh! Strange considering how small they are compared to the rest of a penguin's body. It's a pretty small target, and it's one of the weirdest incidents that's ever happened there, and it's left conservationists shocked and confused. David Roberts also went on to say that the penguins are a protected species on the brink of extinction. Having so many die at once because of a rogue swarm of bees is absolutely horrible and definitely not good for their preservation. Hopefully, this kind of thing doesn't happen again. Which one of these insane animal invasions is your favorite? Let us know in the comments section down below. And remember to share your own animal invasion stories. Be sure to hit the subscribe button before you go to help support the channel, and I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time. Bye!